everybody. Welcome to the Cupid's Coach podcast. I'm your host, Julie Ferman, inviting you to transform me to we through your process of doing dating better. That means the space between relationships, you're working on who you are during this beautiful time. So I have a spicy guest today. We're going to have a lot of fun. Her name is Misty O'Hara, and you may have seen the book. It's called The 100-Man Plan. And she lives in Salt Lake City, and we're going to find out all about her and why she wrote this wild book. Welcome to the program, Misty.
Thank you so much, Julie. I'm so excited to be here and talk about my book.
Yeah, and you live in Salt Lake City where it's kind of conservative, right?
Very much so.
And you are not.
I mean, it depends, compared to who. I have friends where I'm in a group and I'm the prude, and I have friends where I'm in the group and I'm not so prudy. So lots of different people compared to who. So yeah, I've been on both sides of it.
I'd like to be a fly on the wall in the room where you are the prude. Now that would be hilarious. So, do you know who Victoria Joseph is? Her company is called Birds of a Feather.
I do not.
I just did a podcast with her recently. It is episode number 217, and you'll appreciate it. She's the first matchmaker that I'm aware of who works with people who are polyamorous and not ashamed of it and want to meet other people that don't have a problem with that. And so it's a new kind of a world. And so I've been asking a lot of questions lately. I don't believe that there's only one way to do love.
Love that. And I
Right.
agree. One soulmate. People get divorced, they die, they've been married for 40 years and they end up getting divorced and meeting someone else. I believe there are more than one soulmates. There's too many people in the world and too many situations.
Completely. And then there are people that feel like they're missing out because they don't feel like they've actually had a soulmate.
Right.
And I could say that my husband and I have been together for 35 years and we have a really interesting relationship. It's evolved a lot over the years. But now that the kids are grown and it's not like one of those hot, steamy love affairs where we're jumping into bed every day, it's kind of morphed into a brother-sister relationship. It's a partnership,
Mhm.
but it's not really sex forward and romance forward. He's not romantic anyway. But it's every couple needs to find out how they're going to do this together. And sometimes it works over time and sometimes it doesn't. And we're both very, very family oriented. So when it comes right down to it, even when things are challenging, we've managed to always turn toward each other, even when we didn't really want to.
Yes, no, absolutely. I love that. And I love that you said, your partners and soulmates is not always sexual. There are 1,000 different ways you can be soulmates, even with your friends that are girls.
Mhm.
And yeah, I love that. I mean, I've been married 31 years, so we're the same. My husband and we're we don't jump into bed every day, but we definitely have that. We touch each other every day. We kiss each other every day. We make sure there's that intimacy. And I think that's a big part of it. It's like you said, as you get older, there's not so much romance as you live together. My husband's not going to bring me home a dozen roses every day. That would be crazy, and I don't want that. But I do love that you said that, and it is a partnership, and it is something that as you're married longer, a lot of people maybe get bored, but I feel like I fall in love with my guys every time every day that I'm with them, I fall in love with them a little more because I get to know them more.
That's beautiful. And I read that you're married for a long time, but you also have a boyfriend. So do both of you practice polyamory?
So yes, all three of us are polyamorous. I've been with my husband 31 years. He does have a girlfriend who he's been with for only 3 years. Now, my boyfriend, I've been with 7 years, and we all live together. So, yes, all of our kids moved out, and we just kind of moved in together because we were together all the time anyway. My husband and my boyfriend are both IT directors. They get along very well. Apparently, I have a type, but they get along. We have a good time, all three of us. And my husband's girlfriend, she's amazing. I love her, and all four of us get along, but we definitely are all polyamorous.
Wow. So the girls ever go off and do something fun or no?
So It's just me and then my husband's girlfriend, and her and I are friends, and we go and do things every so often together.
But you don't
Um,
not intimate together.
oh, no, I mean, Julie, no,
I'm
we're
curious.
all, this is hilarious. We are all, I call it tragically heterosexual, all four of us. So we have done three ways, but we kind of stay on our sides. We don't really, it's more about when it's me and my husband's girlfriend, it's more about him. When it's me and my husband and my boyfriend, it's more about me. So they kind of stay on their sides. There's not really,
Wow.
they don't really, they're not like that, but it's possible for us three to be together and to keep it straight.
Amazing. Well, I love to hear how people do things differently. And so that's why I like to include it in the podcast. Now, I was reading up on your book, and it's described as funny and brave, a subversive novel. I thought, let me look up subversive, make sure I know what it is. Tending or intending to subvert or overthrow, destroy, or undermine an established or existing system, like a set of beliefs. So,
Yes.
does love have to be a man and a woman, monogamous forever, Ward and June Cleaver? No, it doesn't. That was
Right.
part of your inspiration for writing this book, I'm guessing.
Yes. And as long as it's between two consenting adults or 10 consenting adults. But really, what that means to me is, when a man has slept with 100 women, he's called a stud. When a woman sleeps with 100 men, she's called a slut. And I really hate the double standard. One of my favorite parts of the book is my heroine's best friend. She actually makes a statement in the book, and she says, I like it when I'm called a slut because that means I'm getting laid. And
Oh,
I love it that she takes that negative word and she pulls it back to make it positive. And that is how it should be. So yeah, we're definitely taking it back. And if we want to sleep with 100 men, we can.
interesting. There was another thing that I read about it, that it's a counterstroke, which is a blow given in return, a feminine riposte, is that the word? To
Yes.
centuries of men having all the fun. So you're redefining notions of love, intimacy, and fulfillment.
Yes. And it's absolutely true. I mean, for hundreds of thousands of years, even going back to the days of the Bible, the women are called harlots and Jezebels. Where's all these men that they're sleeping with? What's their name? And yeah, we're in 2025 and women still get a bad rap for sleeping around. And I hope this book changes that. I mean, I have hope.
Yeah, exactly. So, how much of your book is fiction and how much of it is based in things you've actually seen out there in the world?
Well, what's funny? In the beginning of the book, it kind of says, to my children, this is not an autobiography. Mommy has not actually slept with 100 men, I promise. So while it is completely fiction, there are a lot of people, or a lot of people that I take, that I've looked into their lives and they've told me stories, and I've kind of used it in the book, changed it around to protect the innocent. But a lot of it is based on stories I've heard, men I've been with, my husband, my boyfriend, and then just stories from my girlfriends. Lots of it coming from my imagination, which I have a great imagination. And it kind of goes into the story of why I started the book, and we can talk about that if you want.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd love to. Tell us about that.
Okay, it's crazy story. So my husband and I have actually been monogamous for 19 years. 19 of our 31 years together. We were monogamous. And my mom actually got ALS and passed away, which really tore up our family. And I was such a good girl, and I basically went to my husband and I just wanted to act out. I said to him, I'm just going to think of the worst thing I can do, and I think I'm going to go have sex with 100 men. And he kind of did that. What? And because it's so funny, because we had only slept with each other at this point. And I said to him, I'm just going to go sleep with 100 men. And he is the sweetest, greatest man in the world, because instead of kicking me out, instead of telling me he wants a divorce, he said to me, babe, you do what you need to do to get through this. Just take me with you. And I fell in love with him so much again when he said that, because any other man would have, had an issue with it, and rightly so. But he said, just take me with you. And so later on, he's funny. He told me, I knew you weren't going to sleep with 100 men. You're so picky. And it made me laugh. So he knew I wasn't really going to, but he still wanted to be supportive. So, I went out there and I started seeing what was out there and quickly realized I am very picky. I cannot sleep with 100 men.
Yeah.
I ended up finding one man and I just said to my husband, how about if I just sleep with this guy 100 times instead? And I'll just write a book about it instead. And that actually helped me heal a lot. I got on my computer, I wrote the book. It actually took me 7 years to write because I was working full time. I was raising 3 kids. I had my husband who I loved and I wanted to spend time with. And I was going to school to get my degree. So I just worked on it when I needed to, when I had spare time. And I like it a lot more than sleeping with 100 men. I'll tell you that. I like the book.
I found some interesting things on your Instagram page. And
Okay.
one said, your sex life doesn't need to make sense to anyone except you. It's not a community project.
Yes, you would not imagine the amount of people who are so concerned with who I sleep with. Multiple people reaching out to me, telling me they're concerned for my marriage and my well-being, and if I'm going to get into heaven, hilariously enough. It's so funny. Everyone is so, they're so just concerned, and they have to reach out to me to let me know. And it isn't anyone. It's no one's business. The only people that and it's not even really my children's business. When my husband and I ended up telling them, which we waited till my youngest was 21, we kind of wanted to wait till they were adults, so it wouldn't really change how they were raised or anything about them. And we wanted them to be okay with it, and they actually were. So everyone else, I don't really care. It's between my husband and me, and we're both good.
Know the other man in your life? Did they know him already?
Yes. They always have known my boyfriends because I've had a couple. They've always known them just as our friends. And, it helps them. My husband's really good friends with them and they come over and hang out. I'm not affectionate with them as far as being a boyfriend, but I do hug them. And, I hug everybody. I'm a very affectionate person when it comes to just everybody. So my kids had no idea. And rightly so, as they should not have. But yes, he was in our life. But we have a lot of friends in our life that I'm not in a polyamorous relationship with.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, your kids, are they more traditional or are they out there doing really creative things?
They are absolutely not traditional. And it's so funny, we are here in Mormon territory, the LDS church, and we were raised LDS. And my children are all atheists, which I think is hilarious. But my husband is an atheist as well because he's very into science. And so my oldest daughter is a lesbian and she's married. She just got married about a year ago. My youngest daughter's been in a 5-year relationship and she lives with her boyfriend and they do not want to get married and they do not want to have kids. And my son, who's right in the middle, he has not dated at all. He has ulcerative colitis. And he says, I don't have time to date. I spend too much time on the toilet, which is so hilarious. But my 3 kids are great. And basically I call it, we came out to them, kind of, we just came out of the closet out of monogamy and into polyamory. And they say to me, Mom, you accept our weird lifestyles. Of course, we're going to accept yours. And that's how I raised them, to be very independent and not to judge. And I love that about them.
Beautiful. And I love that you have this alternative lifestyle and you live right there in Mormon country.
Yes, it's been crazy, but we do have a lot of rebels here. A lot of us were raised in the church with rules. And so a lot of people, when they grow up, they kind of want to act out as well. And I think they should, as long as they're safe about it.
So here's a fun little question about sex and intimacy. Have you found that having another partner, you learn things that you hadn't learned before? And like maybe you do it one way with one guy and another way with another guy. And do you ever say, hey, I learned something. You want to learn it? I mean,
yes, that's so funny. Yeah. And definitely, there's things that my boyfriend has brought into in our life that I had no idea and I didn't know much about. My husband also, sometimes he'll try something else and I'll say, hey, where did you learn that? And it's pretty funny because, he'll learn it from his girlfriend. But definitely, I had sex with the same man for 19 years and it was great. And, I have a very high sex drive, if you haven't guessed. And both of my men do as well. So it works out. But my boyfriend's great. When he first came in, having sex with someone new for the first time, you kind of want to hide your body, or you kind of, sometimes there's noises that you're just like, oh my gosh, that's so embarrassing. And he's so cute. He just said to me, babe, this is sex. It's messy. There's noises. It's great. There's nothing embarrassing about it. And he just kind of gave me permission to just go with it. And I really hadn't had that, in my life, because you kind of want to be perfect and you want to look gorgeous and you don't want there to be any weirdness. And he did give me that advice, and I love it. And I still, to this day, I think about that when something weird happens in the bedroom.
Very interesting. All right. The other one I found was the only thing more beautiful than the woman who knows what she wants is the woman who isn't waiting for anyone else to get it for her. In other words,
Yes.
independence is sexy.
Yes. And this so applies to me being polyamorous, me writing my book. Sometimes I sit around and wait for someone else to do it first because I don't want to be the trailblazer. But I was hiding that I was polyamorous for a long time, for about 5 or 6 years. And finally I was just like, you know what, we're doing this. And I talked to my husband about it. And I said, this is probably better, because I go out on dates with my boyfriend, and who knows how many people saw us and thought I was cheating because we were hiding it. They see me and they're like, oh, I thought Misty was so happily married, but here she is out with another man.
Yeah.
So I just was like, well, I guess I'm going to be the first person to do this. And it's been great, because so many people I know are like, I'm taking a page out of your book. I decided to tell my family. I'm coming out on social media. And I had to be the trailblazer. So yeah, this is definitely something I just have to take charge and do it. I'm 50 years old and I am getting this book published, and I don't know anyone who's really published a book like how I did. So this has been, I just have to be the trailblazer on everything. And I just know that I'm just going to do it, and I get all the flack and we move on. So definitely very independent.
It's really
book
fun.
And everything I've done.
Now we're going to shift to another topic that you love, which is about books. You're a voracious reader.
Yes. Love.
I'm going to ask you one of my favorite questions, and it's a question that I love for people to ask on first dates, which is, what are you reading now? Or what's your favorite book? Some people aren't big readers, but they usually have a favorite book. I don't want them to feel like they're losers because they're not in the middle of a book, or 3 of them right now. But what are you reading right now, Misty? Tell us.
So I am reading, it's so funny. I have such a wide range of books. Right now, I'm reading 2 books. I am reading Stephen King's It, which I'm reading for the second time, and I love Stephen King. I'm also reading Zoya by Danielle Steele, which is probably from the 70s or 80s. It's a really old book, and I love it. And then I'm actually getting ready to start another Ellen Hildebrand book. And, it's so funny. My husband sees me reading all these different books, and he says, these are so different. But my very favorite book in the whole world, Gone with the Wind. Mm-hmm. And I just love how, people say that is such a long book. It's over 1,000 pages. And I love long books. I mean, it never ends. When you have a good book, you want it to be long. I actually took my pen name, Misty O'Hara, from Scarlett O'Hara in the book, and she is my absolute favorite. Going back to that, my mom was a huge reader. She got me involved in reading, and she loved Gone with the Wind, was her favorite book as well.
So you read a lot of fiction.
Lots of fiction. It's so great when I see everyone reading books that's going to basically make them better, self-help books. I was in college for 10 years and I had to read a lot of books that I didn't want to read. So once I graduated, I just want fiction. I want the happy ending. I want the great story.
Whatever it takes. I love disappearing into something. And I'm always reading nonfiction because I'm always modifying curriculum for my boot camp and doing these podcasts. So the book I'm reading right now is Brené Brown's Atlas of the Heart. Have you read it?
I have not.
Well, I thought I would share some of the things that I marked and see if you have anything to say about it. One of the things she's talking about is resentment. And she said, while resentment is definitely an emotion, I normally recognize it by a familiar thought pattern. What mean and critical thing am I rehearsing saying to this person? So that's how we know we're resentful, when we're thinking, well, I really want to say to this person is, do you have any of that?
I mean, absolutely. I try to not, I'm a very positive person. I try not to have resentment, but usually if you dig deeper, you can kind of figure out why you have that resentment. I mean,
That's
there,
right.
there are so many different topics you can talk about on resentment. If being polyamorous, people say, oh, you're so lucky you don't have any jealousy. I absolutely have jealousy. I've just found a way to kind of bring it in and kind of break it down. But if I see that my husband maybe is doing something for his girlfriend that he hasn't done for me in a while, there might be a little resentment, but then I break it down and I kind of go, okay, he's doing something that makes him happy. He's definitely making her happy. He's working on their relationship. Please don't be a hypocrite. I kind of say this to myself.
All right.
Obviously you've done things for your boyfriend that maybe you haven't done for your husband. And we try to keep it all even, but obviously you can't do that a lot. So, yeah, definitely the resentment can be there. But I think if you kind of pull back and kind of break it down and open it up and see why you're thinking this way, it's a lot easier to swallow.
Yeah, Brené Brown, one of these she was talking about the distinction between envy and jealousy. Envy is something that you don't have and someone else does. Jealousy is like it's different. But
Yeah.
this one's about comparison. Comparison is the crush of conformity from one side and competition from the other. It's trying to simultaneously fit in and stand out. So comparison says, be like everyone else, but better.
I love that.
She's
Yeah,
brilliant.
I love that quote. I'm gonna have to get that book and read it. That
It's
actually seems really interesting.
it truly is. And now we move to resentment. While resentment is definitely an emotion, I normally recognize it by a familiar thought pattern. What mean and critical thing am I rehearsing saying to this person, right? So that's the whole thing is resentment and comparison. And then she was talking about disappointment. There are too many people in the world today who decide to live disappointed rather than risk feeling
Oh
disappointment.
my gosh, that makes me so sad. That reminds me of is it better to have loved and lost than not loved at all? And absolutely love everybody. And yeah, I can't, just if you stay home in your house and you never do anything, you won't ever be disappointed, but you have to get out there and live.
Well,
And that,
and
that quote's great.
you affectionately called yourself picky. Well, with regard to matchmaking and dating coaching, I don't like the word picky because it infers that we are picking someone apart, that we're looking for flaws, right? When
Sure.
you're picking through berries and you're going to use those berries for jam, you're picking for the bad ones, right? And so I don't really like the word picky, but I like the word discerning.
Oh, discerning.
Discerning,
Well,
right?
see, when people hear about picky, they usually think looks. I think that's what people are talking about. When I say I'm picky, it means that I'm not going to settle for someone who's mean to me. I'm not going to settle for a guy who's going to come in and be horrible and treat me badly. I'm being picky because I'm good enough to have perfection. And I say perfection meaning perfect for me. This guy may not be perfect for anyone else, but he's perfect for me. So a lot of girls, they say, well, I'm over 40, I'm trying to date somebody, and he doesn't have a job and he smokes a lot of pot. And I'm just like, no, you need to be more picky. But I will start using discerning.
Be a little more discerning.
Yeah,
Um, next, she's talking about belonging, and I love the notion of belonging. I have gotten very clear that as human beings, we need to know that we belong, and we also need to know that we matter.
right.
Those are two things. So she says true belonging is the spiritual practice of believing in and belonging to yourself so deeply that you can share your most authentic self with the world and find sacredness in both being a part of something and standing alone in the wilderness. True belonging doesn't require you to change who you are, it requires you to be who you are.
Wow, I love that.
You're really demonstrating what it is to be a confident, self-assured woman. You didn't create this lifestyle to be different so you would look good to other people.
Right.
You and your husband both looked inside your souls and expanded your interpretation of what love is.
Right. And that's the thing is, people are so worried about fitting in with everyone, but then they're so worried about being different and better. And I think once people just act like themselves and live their life, that's when their true friends come out. That's when they find love. because like people always say, you have to love yourself and then everyone will love you. And it's absolutely true. I've always had very high self-esteem. And I think that my parents kind of just raised me that way. And I've never had a problem loving people. And people always say things like, oh, is your glass half full or half empty? And I like to say, my glass is so full that it's running over and going into other people's glasses and filling those glasses up, because that's just the kind of person I am. But
Mhm.
I do love that. And I do try to, my friends are kind of having a bad day or kind of knocking on themselves. I kind of say, don't talk that way about my friend. Like, I don't like the way you're treating her.
I love that. Um, what we're talking about here is authenticity, and each of us gets to determine what is it to live authentically, and it might change over time. But when we truly are coming from a place of authenticity, we know who we are, we're standing in it, our people will come toward us.
Mm-hmm.
They can't help it. They're magnetized toward us, and the wrong people are going to go away, and that's a good thing.
Right. I always say the trash will eventually take itself out. And we can't worry about people who are jealous of us or who have that envy and who don't like us and maybe want us to fail, which there are people in the world like that. And if you just surround yourself with people like yourself,
Mhm.
I think that that's definitely something that people don't do. They try to keep people in their lives that they're trying to impress. And some people just aren't impressed and they'll spend their whole life trying to bring you down. And you just have to get rid of those people.
I think it's why I've been open to having some alternative guests on the podcast, because there really isn't one way to do love. And these days, fewer and fewer people are telling me that they want marriage and family. It's actually problematic for our species, right?
Right.
I mean, the colleges are going to close. There's nobody to teach. Everybody's just going to learn everything on Chat GPT. It's a wild world that we're living in. But the invitation, I think, is for each of us to look deep within our souls and say, how do I want to live my life separate from what mom told me? I think it's funny what happened to you, that it was you waited until after your mother was on the other side and then you went wild.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I don't know if you were this way around your parents or still are, but I turn into a teenager when I'm around my parents, and I will always be that young girl. And once my mom did pass away, I mean, I think I realized that life is short. She was only 64 years old. And I thought, oh my gosh, I could die tomorrow. Like, I'm going to live my life now. And yeah, I mean, it wasn't so much that I was holding back when she was here. I think it was just, that mindset. But yeah, I think you're right talking about, kids now, they don't want to get married, they don't want to have kids, but there are still traditional children out there. My husband's daughter, she is completely traditional. She just got engaged. Her and her fiance are both they are both straight, and she wants 4 to 6 kids, and they want to do everything traditional, which isn't like her friends. So I
Mhm.
think there are a lot of people out there that are still traditional that do want to get married and have children. I got married at 19, had a baby at 21, and I made sure I told my kids, don't feel like you have to get married and have kids unless you want to.
But you two stayed together all these years, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Or your kids together. I love that. Okay, there's one more I wanted to share. Yeah, this is the one. I never once regretted calling a timeout at home or work. Not once. I've never experienced a little time and space being a bad thing, but I have plenty regrets the other way around. So in other
Yes.
words, when we say time out, we won't have a regret. But if we just let it flow and let our monster versions of ourselves come out, it's not good for anybody, is it?
Right. And, people always say you don't regret the things you did, you regret the things you didn't do. And I like to listen to people who are older. And there's a lot of people who are on their deathbed and they have all these questions. We talked to 100 people who are dying and asked them what they regret. And most of it has to do with love and family and not taking risks. And, there's just a lot of things that it's just like, is this a story I want to tell my kids when I'm in the nursing home? Am I going to regret not doing it?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think, working a lot is never something that people are like, I should have worked more. And so I've been
Made
trying to,
another, I
yeah,
should have made another $1 million, right?
right. I mean, let's put it on the 10 million I have, like it's just money, but family's big, love is big, and probably service, I think, as well. is a big thing that people regret not doing more of.
Absolutely. So, something that you've learned in creating this book that might have been a surprise, because being an author is not something that we're born knowing how to do. So, something you learned in creating this book that was a surprise to you.
Oh my gosh, I learned so much about myself writing this book. In this 7 years that I started writing it, you could almost see at the beginning of the book how I wrote, and then becoming just way better by the end of the book. And it's so funny because I grew as my heroine grew. So when she, of course, started sleeping with from guy number 1, 2, and 3, she was a little prudy, as her husband called her a prude, and was setting out to prove him wrong. But she didn't take as many chances. She just kind of, it was, she stayed with the men. It was a lot of in the bed, missionary. By the end of the book, she's having 3 ways. She's doing things in public. She's meeting strangers. And I kind of grew myself, as my heroine grew, just because the way that I wrote, I became, I was able to write, I think, explain things a little more. We're all adults. We know what it means when someone goes in the bedroom, and it's not cringy, which I like about this book, but it is an adult book. And I think what I've just learned is you can you you can do things with men and not worry about them thinking that you're slutty or loose. All the words that everyone says that people say, you just want to be yourself. You want to make yourself happy. And if that's what you feel like you need to do in your life, then do it. And I did see that from beginning to end the way that I wrote.
Interesting. It does take a lot of courage to do what you did. So the name of the book is The 100-Man Plan. And how do people find it? Oh,
So you can
I found it on Amazon.
yes, you can go to Amazon. You can also go to Amazon UK if you're in Europe and you have an inkling to buy my book. I'm also on barnesandnoble.com. Or if you've forgotten all these names, you can go to mistyohara.com, and it has all the links for all the books, for where you can buy all the books.
Have you been scolded by any of your readers?
Not yet, but I have made sure the only people who read my book so far are people who are like-minded. I do have a lot of cousins and nieces that maybe are a little more conservative. And they said to me, "Oh, I'm so excited to read your book." And I make sure I say to them, "Well, it is rated R. It's naughty." I kind of give them the warning because I don't want them to open it up and not knowing what it means. But I think with the name, the 100-Man Plan, you kind of have to. I mean, you kind of have to know it's more of adult content. But I do give them that warning.
When I see you at the Thanksgiving dinner or whatever, they're going to be blushing. They're like, I know more about this woman than I had any idea was true. So
Yeah.
I congratulate you for thinking outside the box and laying the groundwork for other people. It's an unusual time in our history as human beings, with fewer and fewer people coupling up in a traditional way. I really want people to know what their options are, and I want them to think for themselves outside their own box and how do they want to live. Our son is 31, and he's a traditional guy. He wants marriage, he wants kids. I can't imagine him having any of this polyamory. There are still people like that. So find your own lane, right?
Right. And that's the thing. There's something for everyone. This has been around for a while, and I think I read somewhere that 5% of the world is polyamorous. So I'm sure people, whether they've come out to you or not. It is a thing, and it is becoming more accepted. And I'm going to do it whether it's accepted or not because I love both my guys.
That's amazing. I do remember when I was talking with Victoria with Birds of a Feather, she said there's a big need for women in their database.
Right.
So I was thinking, it's good to talk about this because maybe there's a woman out there who's recently divorced, didn't really have much of a love marriage, isn't really ready for the big thing, but wants to learn, wants to have different relationships. I am not here to judge. And I do the same thing with politics, religion. I don't judge. And I'm wrestling with my conundrum. The conundrum is that I'm intolerant of people who are intolerant. So what does that mean?
Oh, it's kind of a double-edged something. No, it doesn't matter what if you're going to hate someone because of something they say or something they do, and that's going to affect you so much, I mean, just be tolerant of everyone. Everyone has opinions, everyone was raised differently. And I just kind of have to take a step back. Sometimes someone I know will say something that maybe I don't agree with, and you're kind of just like, oh, I didn't know they felt that way.
Yeah.
But I think just it's what you said, you're intolerant of it, but how far do you go with it? And
Yeah.
do you reach out to that person? Do you attack that person? Because there's too many. It'll kill us all.
We just
I don't
come from a place of kindness and respect, even if we don't understand their
know.
philosophy or way of being, and just be curious instead of righteous.
Right. And
Just,
ask questions. Sometimes if somebody's like, oh, I feel this way and this way, I ask some questions, and it sometimes helps both of us. Sometimes they change their mind and sometimes they don't. And yeah, I think you can ask the questions, and then you use the age old, we're gonna have to agree to disagree on this one.
yeah, yeah, that's right. And it's training ourselves to listen for understanding rather than listening to come back with a response. Because then you're only listening to half the sentence and you're already planning the thing that you're going to fire at them.
Right.
All of these conversations are important in today's world. Thanks for being on my show. I look forward to meeting you in person at some point. Come to one of our matchmakers conferences. You would enjoy it.
I would love to do that. I'll come as one of the single women they need more of. And I'll say, well, I have two guys, but
What the
I want to see what's out there.
third man in my life. It'll be great.
Yes, always on the lookout.
Appreciate it, Misty.
Thank you so much. And yeah, I'll try to track you down, and I'm excited to meet you.
I'm in Denver these days.
Oh,
Pretty
perfect.
most
Just
easy to find online. I can work from anywhere. I'm technically a digital nomad at this point, so it's a good way to live.
No, that's great. You're one state over. I'll hop on by.
I know, I love Utah. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you're enjoying expanding your consciousness and awareness of different ways to live. And you go out there and transform me to we for yourself. Thanks for listening.